Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and with Aetherdrift coming out soon, we're going to talk about limited archetypes. These are the decks that you should be attempting to draft in the early stages of Aetherdrift Limited, along with an example of their signpost uncommon, which is both supposed to be a very good card for each archetype, but also be an example of what the archetype is attempting to do. Starting off with blue-white, Azorius is an artifacts matter control deck. And this is exemplified with their signpost card, Voyage Home, which is a 7 mana sorcery that has affinity for artifacts. And it says you draw 3 cards and gain 3 life. This is extremely powerful if you can cast it for 2, 3, even 4 mana. So it rewards you for having a lot of artifacts, and drawing cards and gaining life is exactly what control decks want. So artifacts matter control. Next up is Dimir, which is Graveyard Control, a Graveyard Matters control deck. This is exemplified in their signpost uncommon Haunt the Network, which is a 5 mana sorcery. And it says choose target opponent, create 2 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature tokens with flying. Then the chosen player loses X life and you gain X life, where X is the number of artifacts you control. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't interact with a graveyard, so this is, I think, an example of a failed signpost card. This is more like a finisher and a reward for playing a lot of artifacts more than a graveyard synergies, but the archetype has a lot of graveyard synergies. Next up is Rakdos, which is the aggro deck. This is exemplified with Gastal Thrillseeker, which is a 2 mana 2/3 with start your engines. And when a creature enters, it deals 1 damage to target opponent and you gain 1 life. And at max speed, so when your engines are at 4, this creature has Death Touch and Haste. So it's great on turn 2 to get the start your engines going and the speed going. It pings when it enters, and it can haste in the late game, also very powerful, the aggro deck. Next up is Gruul with big mana Exhaust. Exhaust being something you can activate once, and it being really, really big mana, ramp, big dumb creatures, kind of like what Gruul normally is. This is exemplified with their signpost uncommon Boom Scholar, which is a 3 mana 3/3 with exhaust abilities of other permanents you control costing 2 less to activate, and it has exhaust for 6 mana. Creatures and vehicles you control gain trample until end of turn. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature. So a great example of a cheaper creature making big mana exhaust things cost a little bit less and effectively ramping you and rewarding you for playing these big mana exhaust cards. Next up is Selesnya, with a focus on mounts and vehicles and +1/+1 counters like Selesnya normally does. This is exemplified with Veteran Beast Rider, which is a 3 mana 3/4. At the beginning of your end step, untap each creature you control, which is crazy because it means it's effectively vigilance. You can attack and block, and you can pay 4 mana to have creatures you control get +1/+1 till end of turn. Letting your stuff untap includes vehicles and is very good for mounts as well. And antheming your creatures leans into that +1/+1 archetype as well. Next up is Orzhov, which is a sacrifice and a zombie focused archetype. And this is exemplified in Embalmed Ascendant, which is a 3 mana 1/2 with start your engines. When it enters, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So 3 mana 1/2 that creates a 2/2. So that's already 2 bodies in 1 is already great. And at max speed, whenever a creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So it has a Blood Artist effect as well. Has a zombie, has this sacrifice reward. Is perfect signpost card. Next up is It, with a discard matters aggro archetype. This is exemplified with Broadside Barrage, which is a 3 mana instant that deals 5 damage to target creature or planeswalker, draw a card, then discard a card. So it allows you to have the discard matters. It enables that, and it gets things out of the way so that you can do your aggro thing for pretty cheap. 3 mana is not bad. Next up is Golgari, which is the self-mill archetype. This is exemplified in Broodheart Engine, which is a 2 mana artifact. At the beginning of your upkeep, Surveil 1, so you're allowed to mill and kind of select your draws. And you can pay 4 mana and tap it, sacrifice it, to return target creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. So it allows you to fill your graveyard and reanimate. It is both a payoff and enabler in one, an incredible signpost card for the self-mill deck. Next up is Boros, which is a vehicles matter aggro archetype. This is exemplified with Cloudspire Coordinator, which is a 2 mana 3/1. When this enters, scry 2. So 3/1 for 2, allowing you to select what you want to draw. That's great. And you can tap it to create X 1/1 colorless pilot creature tokens, where X is the number of mounts and/or vehicles that enter the battlefield under your control this turn. The tokens have this token saddles mounts and cruise vehicles as those power were 2 greater. So you have an aggressively costed creature that creates other creatures that make mounting and whatever your vehicles even easier, and also allows you to go really, really wide. That is a signpost card for Boros. And then lastly, we have Simic, which is a ramp and exhaust deck, mostly focusing on tempo rather than like the big mana stuff like Gruul. His signpost uncommon is Sky Serpent Seeker, which is a 2-mana 1/1 with flying and death touch. And exhaust for 4, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal 2 land cards. Put those land cards onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest of the bottom of your library in a random order. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So this is a card that can delay your opponent because it has death touch and flying, and also ramp you for a little bit more mana. Another pretty decent signpost card. But those are the limited archetypes in Aetherdrift. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.